Hey guys, welcome to Coffee with Carlson. Today is October the 12th. I thought I tricked myself. Maybe it's pre-recorded, maybe it's not. You're not sure, I'm not sure. Someone might figure it out. If they do, let us know. There's only one way for you to know that today, this morning, Monday, May the 12th, is pre-recorded. If you figure it out, put it in the comments down below and let me know. Otherwise, say something nice about me. Follow me on YouTube. Welcome to Coffee with Carlson. My name is Jeff Carlson, thus the name. I do not have any coffee yet because my producer Dan didn't make me any. I don't even have a cup. I don't even have a cup with water in it. I don't have a cup with anything in it. I have nothing. All right. So we've been changing up the show a little bit. Last Monday, I talked about checking accounts, how to set up your business accounts. We kept that show to just under 20 minutes. We were doing 30-minute shows, and I think from now on, we're going to shorten them to about 15. I'm going to hit one topic really quickly. 5 minutes? 5 minutes maybe next time. That's why the mic's supposed to be over there, Dan, so you can say, how about 5? And I say, I don't know.
Microphone is here, Jeff. I just chose to mute it.
Thank God.
5 minutes.
All right,
max.
5 minutes. 15 minutes might be good, but I don't want to go too fast. Jessica, my beautiful wife, and I were talking today about a YouTube show she watches. She was trying to learn how to do something to her Macintosh today, and she had to keep pausing it because the guy was talking too fast and she couldn't keep up with him. I'm going to try not to do that to you. Good luck. All right. So today's topic. Last week we talked about checking accounts. Today's topic is going to be meals and entertainment expenses. This has always been kind of an open area for people to play with. I won't say it's gray because the rules were definitely not gray on meals and entertainment, but now they've changed significantly. So all of the tax cuts that that the presidential candidates are talking about right now, well, I'm just going to say it. Joe Biden says he's going to reverse all the tax cuts that President Trump enacted in the Tax Cuts and Job Act from 2017. He said he's going to reverse
Sorry, Jeff,
all of
but
those.
I don't have a boo button yet, so I'm just going to boo.
Logan, yell boo. Boo. So he wants to reverse all those tax cuts. Well, one of the provisions of that actually wasn't a cut. It was a reduction in the benefit that you get, basically removing the meals and entertainment expenses. So if you go out to dinner with clients or prospective clients, or you're at a convention or something and you take some of your vendors out, or people you're courting to do business with you, people would deduct all of that. They write it on their receipt, who they met with. Well, they were supposed to write on their receipt who they met with, what they talked about, the date's already on the front, and the dollar amounts on there. So kind of the loose rule that you used to use. When that flowed down to your tax return, you got a 50% deduction for that. Pretty much eliminated that. So, and I'm going to read from the Internal Revenue Service website. When I load the file up, I'll put a couple of these links down there, Publication 463, which talks about meals, entertainment, and travel, gift, and car expenses. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And next week now, I did say that I was going to talk about vehicle expenses, but I'm going to do that since I'm shortening the show. I'll do that next week for the show next week. So let's dive right into this real quick. And how about we split screen? I'll just let you guys look at some of this. So this is a pronouncement that came out from the IRS, or IRS updating guidance on meals and entertainment expenses. This is from February 24th, 2020, referencing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which eliminated the deduction for any expenses related to activities generally considered entertainment, amusement, or recreation. It also limited the deduction for these expenses related to food and beverages provided by employers to their employees. No longer take a deduction for meals. Take a deduction for any expense related to activities generally considered entertainment, amusement, or recreation. You can deduct 50% of the cost of business meals if you are present and the food or beverage aren't considered lavish or extravagant. I'm not sure what the definition of that, but assume that the IRS is going to take a relatively conservative approach to that. So let's talk about what entertainment is. Entertainment is things like social, athletic, sporting events, nightclubs, hunting, fishing on your yacht, personal living expenses, hotel suite, a car for customers or their families. So a lot of the things that people used to do, they would entertain customers perhaps by renting a box at a football game and call that entertainment expense, or renting a charter fishing boat and taking their clients out for a deep sea fishing trip. Those sorts of things are no longer allowed. This came up last week when one of my clients came in and was asking me if she could deduct any expenses related to an annual retreat with her employees. So I generally, right off the top of my head, I said, no, the new rules eliminate that. So that's not going to be allowed, non-deductible. However, there are a few exceptions. Entertainment treated as compensation. So if you're going to put it on their W-2, that's okay because you're going to deduct it as W-2 wages. Or recreational expenses for employees such as a holiday party or a summer picnic. Now those are examples. So since this particular company retreat is not until the middle of October, it's not a summer picnic, it is a fall festival picnic. And instead of covering the tables with tablecloths, the tables might be covered with tiki huts. But anyway, so it does give you that ability to do something for your employees once a year where you're going to give them a reward for being there. So it did give you a little bit of that. So this is one that's kind of always been there, but expenses related to attending a business meeting, convention, or certain types of organizations such as business leagues, chambers of commerce, professional. So if you're going to a chamber luncheon for business purposes, and entertainment that you sell to customers. So that's a little bit different than normal. You've always not been able to deduct entertainment activities like social clubs. A lot of people don't understand this, but the definition of entertainment expense for social clubs is an interesting one because it says you can't deduct membership in any club organized for business, pleasure, recreation, or other social purposes. So that would include things like chamber, Kiwanis Club, Rotary Club, those sorts of organizations that you might be a member of to help support your business, but the general membership to that's not deductible. So when it comes down to meals and the 50% rule, we used to say things like, if the meal was secondary to the business meeting, so if the only time I could meet with my customer was at lunchtime, so for convenience sake, we said, hey, let's combine these two, then I would get that 50% deduction. And they're kind of, I would say that the current rule, the new rule, that you can continue to do that is still allowed, but it's removing the entertainment component. So as long as I'm going to a business meeting and we're having lunch while we're there, then that's still a 50% deductible item. So we're not going to eliminate that. And there's a few examples on here in the publication that you can read on your own. I'm not going to go through them. All right, so what I'm going to do to kind of finish the meals thing up is cover a little bit more in depth the exception to the 50% meal limitation. And these are some of the things that could give you the 100% deduction if it meets the following exceptions. And there are 6 of them listed in the publication. The first one is expenses treated as compensation. So again, these are things that you're going to gross their W-2 up. So you're going to add it to their wages. So it's really not deductible as meals and entertainment. It's deductible as compensation. So it's deductible to the business as compensation. If you're an employee, you aren't subject to the 50% limitation on expenses for which your employer reimburses you through an accountable plan. Accountable plan is something we can cover maybe another day, but accountable basically means that they're going to give you a receipt. And some of you that have been in the corporate world, you know you have to fill out expense reports. So you fill out an expense report and you have $100 for meals and entertainment. You transfer that over to the employer. You give them a copy of the receipt. You're going to get that full reimbursement back for that expense. Self-employed people, there are some certain. This is only if the client reimburses you or gives you some sort of an allowance for this. This is if you're an independent contractor. So if you're working on a job site and the customer you're working for says, I'm going to give you $25 a day because you're working 50 miles from home to help pay for it. So what they're basically saying there is that you're getting paid for it so you can deduct all of it. Self-employed attorney who adequately accounts for meals and expenses to a client and reimburses you for these expenses, you're not subject to the 50% limitation. That means you're not going to get paid 100% of it and only deduct 50% of it. So it's not really deducting it because it's a wash by the time you get your tax return filed. Number 4, recreational expenses for employees. You're not subject to the 50% limit for expenses for recreational, social, or similar activities, including facilities such as a holiday party or a picnic, summer picnic. We talked about that earlier. So if you're going to do some sort of a little retreat for your employees, you're allowed to do that without the deduction. Advertising expenses. So if I'm providing meals to the general public as a means of advertising, as goodwill, say you're doing a promotion as a car dealership and you're going to have a food truck come in and they're going to cook free hot dogs for the day for everyone that comes to test drive a car. You're not going to get hit with that because you're doing it for advertising. So that, the example they give here is the expense of sponsoring a television or radio show, nor the expense of distributing free food and beverages to the general public is subject to the 50% limitation. So, you get the radio station to come and you do a big promotion. That's more of an advertising thing. And the sale of meals, if you're selling meals to the public, if you run a restaurant, your expense for the food you furnish customers. So those are kind of, I don't want to say funny, but not really things that you would think of as a business expense. Anyway, because that's more of a cost of goods sold, but it's still listed there, which is kind of strange. So the interesting thing, the one final thought on this that they said in here, which is kind of interesting, that entertainment expenses are generally non-deductible. However, you can continue to deduct 50% of the cost of business meals if the food and beverages aren't considered lavish and they're not part of the access to the event. So the meals provided to a business customer, client, consultant, employees, if they're provided during the event and are not part of the entertainment and are purchased separately, or if the cost could be stated separately through the invoice. So that's kind of an interesting workaround. And this was the interesting thing about that is that we used to not be able to deduct the cost of meals at a conference. If I'm away at a conference and the meal wasn't included at lunchtime in the cost of the conference, I wouldn't deduct it. But if it was included in the cost of the conference, then I could deduct it. So that's kind of backwards from that. But interesting concepts. And just to give you a little bit of food for thought, what I'm talking about here is not something that can replace the advice in your particular situation for what you're doing or what you're asking, what you're trying to deduct or expenses that you may incur. So always consult with your tax professional. If you need help from us, you can reach me anytime at www.carlsonaccounting.com. There's a link right at the top of the page. Book an appointment. You can book an appointment on my calendar anytime. That's real time linked up. So we'll be able to see you. We offer free consultations for all potential new business clients, and we'll do whatever we can to help you out. If you're not on the web, you can reach us at 863-382-4141. Thank you again for joining me on Coffee with Carlson. This is Jeff Carlson, and thank you very much, and God bless. That show sucked.